Welcome back. This is Green Mountain Mornings here on 100.3 FM, AM 1490. I'm your host, Olga Peters, 11 minutes past the top of the hour. And welcome, Melanie Winters from the Reformer. How are you, Melanie?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So glad you could join us by phone from your home over there in the Deerfield Valley.
Thank you.
Talk to us a little bit. There was a really nice kind of feel-good story by Chris Mays in the Reformer last week, I believe, about the police department gathering books or working with everyone's books to make sure that detainees have something to read while they're sitting waiting to go to court.
Yeah, I guess Officer Ryan Washburn came up with the idea. He was walking his beat downtown, and he just happened to go by everyone's books, and I guess a light bulb went off, and he thought, provide some reading materials for people who are in lockup for extended period of time. I guess there's a time frame for if they're arrested before 10 a.m., they'll probably have a court date that day. Mm-hmm. If not, then they have to wait overnight or sometimes over the weekend, and it's kind of boring and depressing in lockup. So he just thought, give them something to read and pass the time. And Nancy Braun, the co-owner of everyone's books, was right on board with that. And I guess they get advance copies,
mm-hmm.
Like bookstores would normally get of new releases and such. And once they're done reading those, they decide to donate them to the police department. And so win-win for everybody, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like it could become an ongoing program.
Yeah, she's open to that. They love giving back to the community. Everyone's books. They're always involved in a lot of different things and benefit events and just promoting the downtown area and everything. So it doesn't surprise me that she was right on board with that at all.
Well, I thought that was an ingenious solution to what could be a very boring, dreary wait for someone.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine what it'd be like just staring at those cement walls and bars and everything for hours and hours. And yeah, a book would really be, just such a simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize, but it probably makes a world of difference.
Yes, yeah. There was also a memorial for Caitlin Cushing, who died in a car crash on August 29th at Memorial.
Yeah, that whole thing was just so tragic. She was a graduate of Brattleboro Union High School, 2011, I believe, and was very big into playing softball. She played second base, and so they had a memorial for her at the baseball field at Living Memorial Park. And it was just a very moving tribute. There was, about over 100 people there, and they all had the candles, and they wrote little messages on little ribbons for Caitlin, and it was just it's so sad. I mean, she had just gotten married too.
Mm-hmm.
It was so sad.
Yeah, the thing about small communities is when one family is hurt, many families are hurt.
Oh yeah,
it never happens in a vacuum.
Oh yeah. Everybody knows you. Yeah, either knows them directly or knows somebody who knows them, or it's just so sad.
Well, thank you for that update, Melanie, and our thoughts go out to the Cushing family and Caitlin's family. We have to move on to weather, but Melanie and I shall return after the break. We are back. This is Green Mountain Mornings on 100.3 FM, AM 1490, 20 minutes past the top of the hour. Welcome back to my guest, Melanie Winters from the Reformer. How are you, Melanie?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Since the last, 5 minutes ago since we talked?
Right.
Hey, there's a bit of a milestone that happened in Brattleboro. Well, I think it technically happened yesterday, and that was Basket Books closed after 41 years of business.
Yes, and the most recent owners, I believe 25 years running the place or being involved in the place. It's actually an interesting setup there. It's not necessarily for profit.
Right.
I mean, it's a business, and they have rent to pay and utilities and computer and internet and all that. And what they do is supports that, but I guess not so much salary. So they've been relying on volunteers, and which is interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of a business, that long relying on volunteers. Just using the income to just to pay the utilities and such. But I guess they're getting up there in years, and the volunteers are getting older and such, and so they just decided it was time for them to move on and try retirement for a little while. So, but it's an interesting setup, and I think it's going to be missed. They've been there for a long time, and they seem to have quite a following. So,
yes, yeah, a number of my friends are deeply devoted to basket books.
Well, I guess they offer some great discounts and such, and
I think it was also a place where you could go and really talk about books.
Right. I mean, they had some of the classics there, which I don't know. I mean, bookstores always have the classics, but I don't know. This place, it just, like you said, it generates conversations and a deep interest in books and stuff. It's not just people coming in just to find something to read real quick or whatever. It's a gathering spot.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. I always saw it as a place for book lovers.
Right.
Yep.
So they'll be missed. They had their last day Monday.
And there's a pottery studio going in its place. Is that
That's what
correct?
I heard. That could be interesting. So I mean, it's great that it's going to be the space is going to be refilled so quickly. That's wonderful.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I wish the owners the best in their retirement. What now in the Deerfield Valley over? I believe it was the weekend.
Yes, last week. Not this past weekend. The weekend before.
The weekend before was
Yeah.
the 8th annual Ride to Give, which raised just over $3,000 for the Deerfield Valley Food Pantry. And tell us a little bit about that. Oh no, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the pantry, it's a great organization. We also have Twice Blessed, which also provides funding for local families, too. The pantry, it serves about 100 families a month, somewhere in the neighborhood of 225 people each month. You see their drop boxes, for food, like in the post office and in the grocery store and everywhere. So, I mean, they're really a fixture in the community, and to have this benefit for them just is tremendous. I mean, $3,700 is a lot of money for such a small. It just serves the Deerfield Valley, which is not a very huge local population, but there's still need there. So this is great.
And I won't ask you to do the math in your head, of course, Melanie, but just for listeners, if you remember when I was talking about Load the Latches, which benefits the Groundworks food shelf, and I suspect it's the same for the Deerfield Valley Food Pantry, $20 a month can help support a family of 4. And
that sounds about right, because they can buy things in bulk, they can get discounts and so forth. It's not like trying to spend $20 in a regular grocery store. It's not going to go as far, but they can make the money go much farther.
Yeah, and so that $3,700, as you mentioned, will go far.
The
Vermont Food Bank.
And it's great to have it, in the summertime, because people forget about, people are hungry in the summertime too. There's always an outpouring during the holidays, but you need that extra boost in the summertime too to get you through those in between times.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Melanie, because I think one thing we forget is, especially families with children who might be dealing with food insecurity, they can rely a little bit on the school system for free and reduced lunch.
Right.
But during the summers, that resource is gone. And so in some ways, families rely even more on food shelves in the summer months.
Yeah, although there is a greater effort to provide kids meals throughout the Windham County area this summer in particular.
Yeah.
There were food areas set up, Living Memorial Park. I believe one of the Twin Valley areas. I think it was it was either the elementary school or the old school. No, that's not still working. But I mean, different points throughout the Windham County area. They did provide summer food, but you have to get there. So not all parents can avail themselves of that because they work during the day or whatever. But so the food pantry need still is there. Yeah, definitely.
Coming up in the next break, Melanie and I are going to talk about some economic development issues in Dover. But it made me wonder with looking ahead to that segment, Melanie,
Mhm.
and bringing it back to the food pantry just before we move on. What overall, if as someone who lives in the Deerfield Valley, what are you seeing its economic climate as these days?
Um, well, a lot of people in the Deerfield Valley, in particular, a lot of people are trying to recoup their losses from not getting paid by Hermitage. So
Interesting.
there's that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it seems that things seem to be humming along. That there was good amount of tourism this summer.
Oh,
I would
good.
say, judging from the road traffic and the store traffic and just the traffic, the foot traffic downtown. It seemed to be a pretty busy summer. So
Mm-hmm.
from that aspect, I think that was good. I don't see a whole lot of major building going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's a wait and see thing, or maybe people are doing like renovations here and there that just aren't as visible. I'm not sure about that, but I don't see a whole lot of new building going on. I will say
Right.
that. But things seem to be humming along.
Now, the Valley has been making some efforts in the past few years because they have been so dependent on the ski season,
Mhm.
which winter is unpredictable.
Mhm.
They've been trying to diversify a little bit, at least in their tourist offerings, to make the Valley a little more four seasons.
Yeah, and I think it's been working. I have been seeing a lot of foot traffic in the downtown
Mm-hmm.
Wilmington area, so I think it's been working. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me that's just anecdotal
Right.
on my part. I don't have the numbers. I'm sure there will be some kind of report coming out, economic development report coming out, or maybe that's something we can certainly look into. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot of people in the valley for the summer months, and the grocery stores are always crowded. I think Shaw's needs some more cashiers because the lines are always long.
That is a good thing. Melanie and I are going to head off to break, but we shall return momentarily, so don't touch that dial. Thank you for joining us here on Green Mountain Mornings on 100.3 FM AM 1490. I'm your host, Olga Peters, 37 minutes past the top of the hour, and Melanie Winters from the Reformer is my guest, joining us via the telephone today. Thank you, Melanie, for being here.
Glad to be here.
So there's an article in the Reformer about the Dover's Economic Development Director, Steve Narotko, I believe is how you say his last name. And he's started holding some regular meetings with business owners and with the community. But some business owners are kind of feeling a little impatient. Is that correct?
That's the sense that we got. A little bit of a history lesson here. They have a 1% option tax on sales in the Deerfield Valley, and they've had that in place since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've created or built up quite a war chest, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.7 million
Wow.
for economic development initiatives. That's what the money was originally designed to do and set up to do. That's what the option tax was for. And now, over the course of the past 10 or 11 years, they've been brainstorming ideas on what to do with this money. All different types of economic development initiatives, anything from landscaping and beautification, business development, events, marketing, telecommunications, trails, water supply. I mean, running the gamut from marketing to infrastructure to just the cherry on top with the beautification and the landscaping and all that. What the new economic development director, I think he's been on board for about a year now,
Okay.
and he's trying to put all this together under one kind of master plan. That's his goal, and I think that was the directive that I believe he got from the select board.
Mm-hmm.
Although there seems to be some discussion there about perhaps needing more guidance from the select board on what he's supposed to do with all of this. But his goal right now seems to be creating a master plan to put all of this together under one umbrella and something to to plan out for the next, 10, 20 years in each stage and what we're going to do here and what we're going to do this year, phase 1, phase 2, whatever. But the business owners, I guess, after 10 years, they're starting to get a little impatient. They see the money built up there, and they see things that need doing right away, and they don't understand. Let's get them done. Let's get some things done. So that's what the discussion is at the moment. There is going to be, I believe, a select board meeting tonight, supposedly to go over some of this, maybe provide some more direction for the economic development director, and see where we go from there.
I found that article, what I found about that article that was intriguing, to me at least, was it seemed once again this age-old tension when it comes to economic development between action versus planning.
Right.
And I'm not sure in Dover what the best balance is, but are you, as you're looking at this situation, are you feeling like this master plan would be a good thing, or should they just start moving ahead with smaller projects?
Well, I kind of lean towards, let's give this master plan idea another 6 months, and because, ideas and plans change over from 10 years from when this tax was first put in place. It's been 10 years. Are the goals still the same? Are the overall writing goals and the need and for infrastructure and so forth, are those still the same?
That's a really good point.
Or has things changed? And I see the benefit of trying to plan all this out in a more systematic way, so that you're not just, throwing money at little hodgepodge projects here and there, but getting an overall picture of where the money would best be spent, both in the immediate and in the long term. I see the benefit to that. But I understand the frustration of just more meetings and more, but this seems to be a little different in that it's bringing it all together.
Right. And it sounds like these meetings are going to be held regularly. He's going to start having, Steve Narotko, will start holding regular.
Yeah, and that's great. He's reaching out to the community, and that also takes time. But, then you want to make sure that, you're on the same page as the people that are ultimately paying your salary.
Yeah.
You don't want to just go out there and say, this is what I think we need to do, and boom, 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 we're going to do it, or just have, a handful of people on the select board make that decision. I think it's better to have the community involvement in the public hearings and the back and forth, because what one third person thinks of, another person might not.
Right. Well, and I agree. I think that's really smart on Dover's part, because here's the thing about economic development is you can have all the experts and you can have all the plans. You can even have all the action. But until the average person on the street sees their paycheck go up, economic development means very little to them.
Right.
Because that's really what you need, is that tangible result.
Right. And you have to have some buy-in with the residents and the businesses and some, back and forth on what they see. They're there every day. Somebody who was just hired, a year ago might not have the same perspective as somebody who's been there for 20 or 30 years.
Right. Well, and it's, for example, it might look from an economic development standpoint that what you need is higher wages. But workers may say, well, yeah, we want the higher wages, but we'd also really like full-time jobs that give us benefits.
Right.
Instead of cobbling together 3 part-time jobs without benefits.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people in the Valley tend to do.
Yeah, and, it seems to me the most vocal people in the Valley are the ones that own the tourism-related businesses. And, so what about the rest of them? What about the rest of the folks who don't own the businesses but rely on wages from those businesses? They may come at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Might want other businesses that aren't so tourism-related.
Yeah.
That might be good for the Valley, too. But I don't know if we're hearing those voices.
And, it would certainly just diversify the economy quite a bit.
Yes.
Well, that's, I guess, a plug to anyone listening who lives in Dover to try to get out to these meetings so you can have your voice be heard.
Yep.
Or at least even send Steve an email with
Yes,
what you would
I'm
like
sure
to see.
he'd be open to having email too.
Mm-hmm.
Any input? Yep.
Any input is good, and I think you're right, Melanie. It's about hearing all the voices at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of labor issues, Bernie Sanders, our lovely senator, did his annual Vermont, New Hampshire Labor Day visit. And was it Kevin O'Connor who covered the visit in New Hampshire?
Yes, he did. He's a correspondent for us, and he also works for Vermont Digger and does a wonderful job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he I guess people went into every time Bernie Sanders shows up for anything, people want to know, are you going to run for president again? That's
right.
Really seems to be the ongoing question, and one that still has yet to be answered, looks like.
Mm. Yeah, he really didn't give much info at all, did he?
He neither confirms nor denies. Wherever he goes, he just kind of seems to avoid the subject or move on to something else. Right now, he says he's focused on 2018, the midterm elections, and so forth. I guess the feeling is the immediate need is to regain the House and Senate. From the Democrats' perspective, that's what they're looking at. So I guess that's where his focus is right now. And of course, railing against Trump wherever he gets a chance.
I'm wondering, Melanie, as someone who works in media and is watching these national races, Bernie specifically, we hear so much about Bernie's national runs and will he run for president or what? But as someone who works in the media and is watching our legislators and our lawmakers, how do you feel Bernie is serving Vermont specifically? Do you think he's being attentive?
Well, he's busy. He's busy traveling all over the country, and some people do feel like he's kind of ignoring Vermont a little bit. I don't have like his voting records off the top of my hands right now, so I don't know where, the specifics of his voting record at the moment. But I know he has been a rare sighting here in Vermont, if you will. But, on the other hand, he's bringing, when he goes out, he does bring some attention to Vermont.
This is true.
The senator from Vermont. So Vermont gets out there on the national stage. So there's that.
I know Bernie doesn't give a lot of sit-down interviews with Vermont press, but if you were able to sit down with him, what are some of the questions you would want to ask?
I guess, well, if he's going to run for president again, I guess, but I don't know if he'll answer that. I guess I would want to know, what he sees going on in Vermont. He does seem to be focused more on what's going on in Washington, and I want to know what he thinks about what's going on in Vermont and what Vermont needs. Is he paying attention to the education issues here, the education funding issues here, the opioid epidemic, all those major issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis? Is he aware of those? And what's his take on it? And what ideas does he have for what's going on in Vermont?
That's a really great question. I think given how much he works with Veterans Affairs and some elderly issues, I think it would be interesting to talk to him about shifting demographics and how do we serve our elders while also supporting the next generation. Right.
I mean, I know he doesn't have a lot of say in what goes on in the state legislature, but, certainly as he's bringing national issues to attention, there's also some Vermont issues that he could, with his name and his years in politics and his connections and everything, he certainly can maybe offer up some suggestions or some ideas.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to hear because, his big picture view and how can the federal government, is there funding Vermont should be leveraging? Right,
or are there national issues that would work in Vermont, that could be applied in Vermont, that could help Vermont, that that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard anything about his plans with Medicare or Medicaid for all. Have you?
Not detail stuff. No,
Mm-hmm.
he keeps talking about, it would be better, it would be cheaper, but I'm not familiar with the details, the nitty gritty, how to pay
Yeah.
for it, and would it, offset one expense over another, and cause it's not just a matter of just having the government just pay for health care, and there are a lot of other issues that need to be addressed within that whole context of health care.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, single payer. There's a lot of other issues. There's tort reform and the whole profit-driven aspect of health care and insurance and so forth. That all has to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be quite the shift in infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So, Melanie, just before I let you go, are there any issues or articles that you're kind of keeping an eye on that readers might want to pay attention to?
Well, just keep in mind that we're just about 2 months away from the midterm elections. So, and there's a couple of interesting races here in Vermont to keep an eye on. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be gearing up for that in the next couple months. That'll be something to keep an eye on.
Okay, perfect. Well, before I let Melanie go, I just want to remind all the listeners that BCTV was here filming this segment of Green Mountain Mornings, and broadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight is sponsored by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. Hey, Melanie, it was wonderful having you on the show today.
Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.